We've reviewed the cards in prep of pre-release weekend, sealed events, and future Commander builds, and are here to tell you the cards that really pack a punch.
Belladonna took. It's a 2/2 legendary creature, halfling citizen. Cost 2 total CMC, 1 and white. Whenever a token you control enters, you gain 1 life. If this is the first time this ability has resolved this turn. If it's the second time, draw a card. If it's the third time, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Do you feel like you can get 2 tokens out every turn? Well, congrats, you have a new draw engine unlocked. What's great about this card is that it's not looking for individual token creation effects. It's just looking for tokens to hit the board. So if you have one card that creates 3 tokens at once, that's the third time a token's hit the board, which is pretty sweet. And don't forget about the plethora of tokens out there. Clues, treasures, insects, soldiers. Just making any assortment of these will trigger Belladonna took.
Tom, Bert, and William is another fantastic card from this set. For 3 generic, a black, and a green, you get a 5/5 legendary troll creature with pay 1, sacrifice another creature, draw cards equal to the sacrificed creature's power, then discard a card. It also has, when Tom, Bert, and William die, if they were a creature, return them to the battlefield. They're an artifact. It works with essentially the entire suite of cards you would think of when it comes to the Riveteer's colors of black, red, green, as well as Golgari. So it's fantastic with cards like Henzi Toolbox Tora in the command zone, Dina Essence Brewer, things like Genova Ancient Calamity, and where I'm most excited to put this is my Zayatora the Incinerator deck. These are decks that care about sacrificing not just things, but in most cases big things, because you get extra payouts, whether that's light drawing cards or being able to direct damage your opponent if you're talking about Zayatora the Incinerator. A lot of these decks already have other sack engines ready to go in the deck, right? Which means that if someone tries to target this or exile this in a way that will stop you from getting that second ability, you're naturally going to be able to sacrifice this in most cases at instant speed, ensuring that you're going to have a reliable draw engine that synergizes perfectly well with your big power creatures die matter deck. So it's a little more niche, but in the decks it's going to matter. It's going to change everything.
Fateful Discovery. It's an enchantment in blue, 5 total CMC, 3 blue. It says whenever an enchantment you control enters, draw a card. This is a pretty unique effect, so if you're creating artifacts, this seems like an auto-include. Where I do advise some caution is that 1, this is a 5-cost enchantment, so you do have to think a little bit about how you're getting to this mana and how many artifacts you have before and after you're casting it. And I will say, playing a lot of artifact decks, it really requires a lot of justification to put in a non-artifact anything, a non-artifact permanent, when I know that I can get artifacts that do maybe something similar. If I'm looking for draw, I may be doing something more for artifact combat or artifact casting. There's a couple different ways you could go. So definitely a unique card here, something totally new, but you have to think about why it's to be added into your artifact deck.
My Precious, for 3 generic mana, it's a legendary artifact equipment with equipped creature, has hexproof, and can't be blocked. Its equip cost is paying 2 mana and paying 2 life. It also has Allure of Power. For 1 and a black, you get the instant adventure spell, where by paying a additional cost of sacrificing a creature, you can draw 2 cards. We think that this card is fantastic and actually potentially even being slept on a little bit, because it's drawing a lot of comparisons to the One Ring, mostly for flavor reasons. Naturally, this card isn't as good as the One Ring, but the card that people should be comparing it to, that it might actually be better in most situations, is Whisper Soul Cloak. Unlike the Cloak, you have to pay 2 life to move this around or use its equip ability, but in the decks that care about having hexproof over Shroud, this card's going to make such a difference. And then that's not even factoring in having this awesome potential card draw engine out of the adventure slot. So we think it's great. We think that it's going to work fantastic in decks that cared about having Whisper Soul Cloak and having that elusivity in order to get to your opponents directly without being blocked, and then also having the protection that comes with the cloak. So things like Kali of the Vast, things like Yuriko, Tiger Shadow, Lathril Blade of Elves, a lot of the classics, as well as a lot of the more flavorful cards that you would want to put these on with Hobbit or Lord of the Rings, like Sauron the Dark Lord or Frodo Adventurous Hobbit. I'm excited about putting this in my Von Dam Sunstar Exemplar deck, but naturally things like Turgid or things where you care about sacking things and then maybe having like a Grave Pack style effect, this is going to go very effectively in. And also things where you care about paying life. It's kind of expensive from a mana side, but one of the things you could do is you could put it in your Strollo, move it around twice, and all of a sudden you've paid for life. So you've hidden the necessary trigger in order to draw that card at the end of your turn.
Gleaming Splendor. This is an enchantment in white, 2 total CMC, 1 in white. Whenever an opponent draws their second card each turn, you create a treasure token. And then it has an ability for 2 and white at instant speed. 2 target players each draw a card. Gleaming Splendor adds itself to a now growing list of cards that care about when an opponent draws a card. If you have a deck that focuses on other people drawing, you're playing Wedding Ring, Trouble in Pairs, Howling Mine, then Gleaming Splendor seems like an instant add. Time everything right with Scrawling Crawler and Treasure synergies, and you've got a pretty sweet enchantment here.
Another card we're exceptionally high on at Spelltable Showcase is the Queen of Dell, card that we think potentially could be one of the best, if not the best, in the set. For 1 in white, it's a legendary creature, Human Noble, with 2/1 power toughness, with the ability, whenever an opponent casts their first non-creature spell each turn, you recruit. It's a new mechanic introduced with this Hobbit set that says draw a card, then discard a card. If you discarded a non-land card, create a 1/1 white human soldier creature token. Naturally, there's a lot of different synergies that go with this card, which is why we're so high on it. But the first thing that stood out to me is that the recruit mechanic of getting a payoff for drawing a card and then discarding a card and getting the bonus for specifically discarding a non-land card made me think of the connive mechanic. So this is another card that I'm excited to potentially slot into my Rafine deck, which cares about going wide but also discard synergies. But this works for going wide in general. Commanders like Jetmir Nexus of Rebels is going to love this card, as are things that care about tokens like Benny Zoologist. And it's no surprise that this card was designed in mind with synergizing really well with Bard King of Dell. So you could put it in that deck and get additional payoffs for both the draw and the token creation that comes by getting the human soldier creature token. But this also works with some older commanders too, and also as a human type, works with things like Eowyn Shield Maiden, and then also if you care about the tokens of the draw, things like Marnius Kalgar. Lastly, this is a legendary creature, so think about legendary strategies. Think about things like Warrior of Darkness, which cares about casting white spells, and this is a pretty low to the ground one at that, so works there too. And then lastly, with that discard synergy, anything you're going to be doing with Recursion is going to benefit from having Queen of Dale in the 99. We love this card.
The Notary Hobbits. The Notary Hobbits is a legendary creature, 1/1, Halfling Advisor, 5 total CMC, 3 green. When the Notary Hobbits enter, if they're not a token, create 2 tokens that are copies of them, except the tokens aren't legendary. And it has a tap ability to add colorless mana for each halfling you control. It definitely requires a little bit of justification for the mana cost, but landing them and being able to tap for 9 colorless mana the next turn or whenever you can tap next does sound pretty sweet. It seems really good for the mid game when you're trying to figure out how to get those bigger spells in and end the game.
Another card that we're really high on at Spelltable Showcase is Bofur Reliable Guardian. It's for 1 white pip, a legendary creature dwarf scout with lifelink at 1/1. But it also has this awesome instant that it could do as an adventure spell, where you can make target artifact or creature you control gain hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. We really like this card because we think it's pretty versatile. I think we could expect to see this at least debated for a bunch of low to the ground decks. I personally plan on looking at it for my Rafine Skimming Seer deck, where it's all about getting turn 1 plays off and plussing them up, which is going to be super nice with the lifelink. And then naturally, the real reason you're playing it is to have that adventure ability on a stick. You're going to see this as just a good spell. I mean, it reminds everyone a lot of the obvious one being Warren's Escape, or a white version of Tamiya's Safekeeping, although naturally not as good. But it's a bonus for you're paying that 1 extra mana and you're getting body on top of it. The adventure means it's also going to work great in decks where you care about exile. So think about Gwen Stacy, think about Narset and Light Exile, or anything else where you really plan on having an Exile Matters deck as well. But I think the place where you're going to expect to see this probably more than any of those other modes is in that nice little dwarf meets equipment synergy tribal strategy that only grew with this Lord of the Rings set. So things like Thorin, King of Durin's Folk, things like Dan of the Ancient Halls, things like Gyat, King of the Dwarves from the Final Fantasy set, we can expect to see plenty of these. And then the other thing is, with it being low to the ground, you could also see some neat synergies where casting a white spell is what you're really going after. Things like Ardbert, Warrior of Darkness, and Aragon the Uniter. Expect to see this as a sleeper protection piece.
Radagast of Rhosgobel. It's a legendary creature, avatar wizard, 2/5 for 4 total CMC, 2 green. The first creature spell you cast each turn costs 2 less to cast and can be cast as though it had flash. I feel this really opens up a lot of opportunities for creature-heavy green decks, and I think this one should not be slept on. Just think about the Mana Dorks, your Notary Hobbits, these sorts of cards that you're able to get in at flash speed, chump block, send in a big creature whenever you're ready, and then be able to attack with it as soon as your turn comes up.
All right, next up is a card that when it was announced was one that everyone was talking about, the Wizard's Staff. It's 1 in a blue for an artifact equipment. Equipped creature has prowess. Whenever its controller casts a non-creature spell, that creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn. If an ability of an equipped creature triggers, that ability triggers an additional time. Equip Wizard 1 or equip anything for 3. Naturally, this card works incredibly well, even by paying that equip 3, but I think in most optimized commander decks, you're going to be seeing that with either things that give you ways to do a free equip ability, like Noctis, or things with wizard types, but not Nala, because its triggered abilities happen before you get the chance to equip something. So some of the new cards like Gandalf Party Guest, Massimo the Magician, the Madcap Jester, Gandalf Shadow's Foe, all work excellent here, as well as Vivi Ornadier, but also both Saruman the White Hand and Saruman of Many Colors work, as well as classics like Nekuzar the Mind Razor, and other things like Kefka Court Mage and Veyron Voice Duality. This also works great in things where prowess matters, or things where even if your commander is not a wizard itself, that has a strong base of wizard creatures. Firelord Azula is going to be super popular for this, as is multiple versions of Narset, and obviously #1 commander on EDH Rec, Y'shtola the Knight's Blessed.
I hope you enjoyed that. Do you agree with the content provider? Was anything missed? Does this episode spark any topics you might want to cover? Let us know. We here at Spell Table Showcase MTG try to mix entertainment with education, and so can you. We've got plenty of Magic the Gathering topics that we have opinions on, but we want to hear yours too. If you're interested in recording a similar video for this series and making some money off it, send an email to spelltableshowcase@gmail.com and we'll tell you what to do. We want this to be a channel for the people and also by the people, so we hope to hear from you and learn about that topic that you are passionate about. Well, that about covers it. Thanks to our sponsors for their support. Be sure to subscribe to be notified when the next episode drops. Have a great rest of the day. Bye for now.